You might think the title of this video is just clickbait or a mean joke, but it is actually coming from a study presented at U.S. Senate. A report surfaced just a few days ago that confirmed something terrifying. Elite universities are actively making their courses easier. They aren't doing this to be nice. They are doing it because the new batch of students literally cannot handle the workload. For decades, we assumed every new generation would be smarter, faster, and more efficient than the one before it. But according to a bombshell testimony given to the U.S. Senate in 2026, we have officially hit a wall. For the first time in history, we aren't seeing an upgrade in human intelligence. We are seeing a reversal. In the next few minutes, we aren't just going to look at the undeniable evidence that Gen Z is falling behind. We are going to expose exactly what is destroying their brains, the dark future this creates, and the only solution left to fix it. To understand the gravity of this situation, we have to talk about the Flynn effect. For nearly 100 years, IQ scores were on a consistent, upward trajectory. Every decade, the average human was scoring about 3 points higher than the generation before. We were getting better at abstract thinking, logic, and problem-solving. It was a given. Children would always be smarter than their parents. But Dr. Jared Cooney-Horvath, a neuroscientist who presented this data to the government, found that this upward trend didn't just slow down, it crashed. For Gen Z, those born between the late 90s and early 2010s, the data shows a measurable decline in core cognitive areas. We aren't just talking about memorizing facts, because obviously, we have Google for that. We are talking about processing power. The study found significant drops in vocabulary, spatial reasoning, and the ability to distinguish between essential and non-essential information. This generation is the first to score lower than their parents in attention span and memory retention. We are looking at a future workforce that is supposed to be leading the AI revolution, yet many struggle to read a complex sentence or solve a math problem without immediately pulling out a phone to do it for them. So, what actually went wrong? It's easy to blame laziness, but the reality is biological. It turns out that the technology we thought would make us smarter is actually melting our ability to focus. The culprit is the death of deep reading. Statistics from the University of Florida and UCL paint a bleak picture. Daily reading for pleasure has plummeted by 40% in just 2 decades. And I'm not talking about reading tweets, captions, or text messages. I'm talking about the specific mental workout that happens when you read a long, complex book. When you read a book, your brain has to do heavy lifting. It has to create images, hold on to characters, remember plot points from 50 pages ago, and follow a linear argument. This builds cognitive patience. But when you scroll through TikTok or Instagram Reels, your brain enters a completely different mode. You are training your brain to scan, not to read. You are teaching it to look for keywords and skip the boring parts. Over time, this actually atrophies the parts of the brain responsible for critical analysis. We are effectively trading our ability to think deeply for the ability to react quickly. It gets worse when you look at the emotional toll of this technology. We have inadvertently created what experts call an anxiety curriculum. Midnight doom scrolling isn't just a bad habit. It is a psychological trap. The algorithms that run our lives are designed by the smartest engineers in the world with one goal: to keep you looking. They do this by feeding you an endless stream of high-emotion content: fear, anger, outrage, and insecurity. This constant switching of context, from a funny cat video to a war zone to a friend's vacation photo, fractures your attention span into tiny, unusable shards. This creates a state of continuous partial attention. You are never fully focusing on anything, but you are never fully resting either. A millennial growing up in the 90s might have spent hours staring at a ceiling or being bored, which is actually when the brain consolidates memory and solves problems. A Gen Z brain, conditioned by instant gratification, views boredom as a crisis. They are often looking for the skip button on real life, or a half-made AI prompt to give them the answer immediately, bypassing the struggle of learning entirely. You can see this shift playing out in the real world, and it is causing massive friction in the economy. There is an interesting, uncomfortable dynamic happening in workplaces right now. Millennials and Gen X, who grew up with limited tech, had to rely on memory and patience. If they didn't know something, they had to go find a book or figure it out through trial and error. They built things from scratch. But now, employers are reporting that the new generation is incredibly fast at finding information, but struggles to process it. This raises a scary question about the future of human innovation. If you look at the last 40 years, aside from the internet and the Higgs boson, we haven't actually had many massive, earth-shattering scientific breakthroughs compared to the mid-20th century. We are refining old ideas, not creating new ones. If we lose the ability to think deeply, are we done inventing? Are we just going to be managers of the machines created by the generations before us? If we cannot visualize complex systems in our heads because we are too busy looking at screens, the next leap in physics, medicine, or engineering might never happen. But look, this isn't a hopeless situation, and it's certainly not about bashing Gen Z for the world they were born into. They didn't invent the algorithm. They were just the first guinea pigs. The good news is that neuroplasticity cuts both ways. Just as your brain learned to be distracted, it can relearn how to focus. The experts say we can fix this, but it requires a radical change in how we view intelligence. It starts with digital minimalism. We need to stop looking at screens as the default activity of our lives. It means bringing back the art of deep reading, not for a grade, but for the sake of your own brain. It means embracing boredom again. Next time you are standing in line or waiting for a bus, don't pull out your phone. Let your mind wander. That is where the ideas come from. The decline in IQ scores is a wake-up call, not a life sentence. We have to choose to use technology as a tool, rather than letting it use us as a battery. This is the biggest challenge of our time, saving our own minds from the tools we created. But I want to hear from you. Do you feel this happening in your own life? Do you feel your focus slipping away compared to a few years ago, or do you think this study is exaggerating? Let me know in the comments below, and if you want to learn how to fix your focus, make sure you subscribe. If you think the AI revolution on Earth is intense, wait until you hear what happened this Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, when Elon Musk revealed a plan that could permanently shift the balance of power off this planet. In our last video, we break down how a routine meeting at XAI turned into a jaw-dropping announcement about merging with SpaceX to build an AI factory on the moon. We uncover why employees inside XAI were left stunned by the idea of a lunar mass driver designed to launch satellites without rockets. Is this the beginning of a self-sustaining moon city and the first real step toward colonizing Mars, or another impossible deadline? If you want the full story behind Musk's most ambitious move yet, click on our previous video right now and see why even his own team is on edge.